Monday Morning Matters
Perspectives
from Southeast Asia.
Welcome back to Monday Morning Matters. On our third segment of the Urban Green, Future of Southeast Asia Architecture with Felino A. Palafox, prominent Filipino architect and environmentalist at the Palafox Associates. He will be discussing on the challenge of every urban planner in Southeast Asia, which is to create cities that are well integrated, safer, and sustainable.
In the case of a lot of the countries in Southeast Asia, they always complain on the part of implementation. We always have good policies, good ideas on paper, but when it comes to implementing it, it's either we lack resources or ideas or people to implement it.
One thing we practice ever since I started practicing architecture, urban planning, we always look at alternative master plans, alternative designs, before we choose the preferred one. Because for me, my principle is I'd rather see my mistakes on paper than see it in concrete. So if you have different alternatives, you see the advantages is advantages. Unfortunately, sometimes in government projects, anywhere in the world, because maybe government bureaucrats, they're given tight deadlines sometimes, they just come with a single solution approach. Another one that even in my young practice of urban planning and architecture, the economists, they have what they call cost-benefit analysis. And one thing that I did not learn this in Harvard, I learned this in Hard Knocks, School of Hard Knocks.
On the streets.
Identify the beneficiaries and sufferers. If you have a big project, who are the beneficiaries? Who are the sufferers? Let's say in my country, I'm told, I'll check the numbers, only 2% of Filipinos own cars. 100% are pedestrians.
I think that's totally the opposite in Malaysia.
When you
Or in Kuala Lumpur.
when you leave your car, you're a pedestrian. And yet transport policy is for the automobile. Roads, nothing for the pedestrians. And projects that I do, whether we're followed or not, the first concept is green urbanism, green architecture. Like green urbanism for the road, cross-section of the road. 1/3 is for trees and landscaping, 1/3 for the pedestrians and bicycles, and only 1/3 for the moving vehicles. 1/3. And it's very difficult to re-educate leaders because they're so fixated that automobile. And for master plan communities that we do, we design, I require for every car, you must plant 10 trees because it takes about 10 trees to recover the oxygen out of the carbon monoxide per car. Master plan communities that I was involved in the Middle East, in the Gulf, I require 17 trees per car because they have much larger, what I call, shopping utility vehicles.
And this is also another area that is quite, I would say, a trend in Malaysia now. I don't know, you probably would have noticed the sprawling of shopping malls.
Yes.
It seems like Malaysia or Kuala Lumpur's, or including the rest of the Klang Valley, when it comes to urban planning, more and more malls are being built. Do you think this is the right way for a city to survive? Especially when you talk about sustainability.
Yeah. In fact, we are architects of mega malls, shopping malls, large malls also. But it's because of the urban development pattern of cities. Like, for instance, gated communities or rigid zoning, where place to live, place to work, place to shop and dine. That global trend now is mixing them together, walkable. Like when we're designing one development in Metro Manila, the Rockwell Center, a survey was done. We Metro Manilans, we walk only 400 meters. We're spoiled by the stop anywhere car, stop anywhere jeepney, tricycle, buses, taxis. So I think ideally, your daily needs should be within walkable distance. Whether your walkable distance is 400 meters or 2 kilometers, that should be the way. Another one that's, so the rigid zoning, residential only. So the demand for shopping, they are accommodated in big malls. Like super regional malls, these are the 1 million square feet to 5 million square feet leasable spaces. Theoretically, they should be 9 kilometers apart. But sometimes we have malls beside each other. And one reason for that, as a shopper, you would go to the shopping center with the widest variety. So it's market driven. At the same time, we plan our communities without shopping. And maybe one smart city that I can mention is New York. You're penalized to use your car. Every time you move your car, $10. You park overnight, $70. So you're forced to walk. And the cities now, maybe aside from the rigid zoning, we could probably designate places in the city. I think this is the trend by the millennial generation as well, the younger generation, where you have 24-hour cycle activity centers, you have 16 hours, 8 hours, and mix them together. And it should be walkable, bikeable, safer, integrating places to live, work, shop, and dine, learn and worship, preferably in a walkable community. Safer, better lighted, and so on. And I think that's the challenge of not just planners, but decision makers and policy makers. And it's just like pre-World War II. Pre-World War II cities were like that. The charming towns and cities in old European cities. But after World War II, we were influenced by the automobile. Even some parts of the world, the automobile companies, I'm told, they bought some railway to kill them.
Oh yeah, that happened in the U.S.
Yeah, that happened in the U.S. Now, the Americans now are, American planners now are leading the way in reforming, because the rest of the world copied everything what they were doing. Yeah, and in fact, I think there was a New York World's Fair in the 1940s, and I saw at Harvard their poster boy, like this is the future, the automobile and asbestos. Yeah, that was the New York World's Fair.
Wow.
This is the future, the car and the asbestos. Yeah.
But now, of course, when you talk about asbestos, it's a very dangerous.
Yeah, in fact, the American Planning Association, the American planners, we talk a lot about this, or also in my postmasteral education, like how come the rest of the world copied everything that America was doing, and post-war American planning. They had a better pre-war American planning. And somebody said, American planner from Miami, Andres Duani, the new urbanism guy, he said something like, well, because America won the Pacific War and the European War, so the rest of the world thought that everything America did was the best practice. Everybody copied them, except the Italians and the French. And I said, how come? Because the French and the Italians were always skeptical of the Americans. So if you want to see charming towns and cities, you go to Italy and France. Yeah.
Now I know. Now we need to be skeptical. That means
you ask intelligent question. Why is it like this? Not because they're the most powerful, most popular, because that's the trend that time. So the trend that time was automobile.
So, final question. What do you foresee the trends in the future? Do you see countries or cities going backward, meaning that they try to be more sustainable, try to focus more on green growth rather than, and try to address issues relating to climate change?
Yeah, definitely, because I think it was an American Indian chief who said, we just borrow the environment from future generations. We're just stewards and borrowers of the environment. And like, if the rest of the world live like the lifestyle of the Americans, we need 6 planets. And I think in 2006, Dubai got the distinction of the highest carbon footprint per capita. 9 planets if we use the Dubai lifestyle. So the leadership of Dubai, Sheikh Mohammed decreed that every building that goes up now in Dubai must be LEED certified, green architecture. So you can see their visionary leadership, strong political will, good planning, good design, and good governance. So they did not want to be have the distinction of the highest per capita carbon footprint in the world, and they're addressing it effectively. And so are the Americans, with all respect. The Americans now are leading the way in transforming our cities into green and sustainable. And it all started with the universities, and those who have gotten their education in top universities in the world before 9/11, I think they should go back. Because every time there's a global crisis, I go back to school. After the fall of the Berlin Wall, a lot of changes. The Wall Street financial crisis, a lot of changes. After 9/11, a lot of changes. After 9/11, aside from attending conferences, seminars like headed by large organizations like Urban Land Institute, FIABC, and so on, I've been to Harvard as a student 8 times since 9/11.
Wow.
I
Must be your backyard now.
It's like unlearning the mistakes of others. Unlearn your mistakes, document it, then best practice. Because the built environment is different. Unlike selling salami, you slice off a part of a salami, forget about the whole thing. In the built environment, if you don't develop it, plan it properly, somebody puts a lousy development beside you, there's an impact on your own property. Let's say you put a 5-star a luxury apartment, somebody puts a piggery beside it. What value will it do to your property?
That's true. Do you think for the ASEAN economic community, urban planners and those who are interested in forming Southeast Asia as these future community cities should look at the vision that you have been sharing?
We need good urban planners, good architects, good engineers, and it should be more comprehensive in outlook. Don't just think of the client who pays your paycheck. You should think of the consumer, the beneficiaries. And as I tell my people, every line we draw, you should think of the sufferer if you do a lousy job. You should think of the beneficiary if you do a good job. Everything we do, we try to excel towards global excellence and best practice. Because it's not enough to be successful. You have to be significant. One day you leave this world and somebody up there will ask you, what have you done? And doing it right away. And after learning so many best practices, best lessons in architecture, urban planning, in Harvard Graduate School of Design, you know, we had one professor. He entered the room and he surprised all of us. You know what he told us? You're dying tonight. Write your eulogy. And who among your friends and relatives will read it for you? We were 19 from chosen students, 19 from 4 continents. I was the only Asian. He noticed everybody had the writer's block. Then he gave a second assignment. You're dying tonight. What legacy, lessons learned you will leave behind your children and future generations? Until now, that's a work in progress. Before I go to sleep, I look back. And two of my classmates were murmuring that time, as a side anecdote, oh my gosh, they said something like, they've been SOB all their lives. Nobody will say nice things about them.
Anyway.
That's why they are successful.
That's true. Anyway, thank you very much. Thanks for being with us.
Yeah, thank you.
Palabox.
That's all from our Monday Morning Matters. Thanks for tuning in to Durian ASEAN with me, Arlene Tan. For more interviews, please go to our website at durianasian.com. If you're on the go, you can always download our TuneIn app on your mobile. Please subscribe to our YouTube channels at Durian ASEAN and Durian ASEAN TV. Don't forget to follow us on our Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. We always welcome feedback from our listeners. Stay tuned with our Monday Morning Matters every Monday, same time at 1 to 2 o'clock on GMT plus 8. Durian ASEAN, the voice of discovery and sharing.
You're now listening to Durian ASEAN, the voice of discovery and sharing.